Well, fuck-a-doodle-doo. I piss off for a week to put the finishing touches to my latest novel, mostly because my publishers will sue me for breach of contract if I don't deliver on time. And when I come back, everyone's wearing face masks and going through more toilet paper than me after a chicken vindaloo. None of this worries me, however. One, because I've got plenty of alternatives to toilet paper, and two, because self-isolation is easy when you're a low-functioning alcoholic with a generalised hatred of other people. Anyway, with the book finished, now I can get back to doing what I do best, laughing maniacally while masturbating to pictures of women dressed as giant pandas. Wait, what? So finally I've got a chance to catch up on my extensive backlog of stuff I want to talk about, and one of those things is Wonder Woman 1984, starring Gal Gadot.
My name is Gal Gadot.
Nah, it's Gadot, like.
Gal Gadot.
Well, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on this one. Now, I have to admit, I kind of enjoyed the first Wonder Woman. Yeah, it was pretty goofy at times. The plot only worked as long as you didn't think about it for more than a few seconds. The finale was a CGI crapfest that made my eyes hurt, and it tried to awkwardly force in pseudo-philosophical questions about human nature without really considering how to implement them into the story.
War. It's fantastic.
But overall, it was a fun, well-meaning kind of movie that made the most of Gal Gadot's general loveliness while successfully working around her acting limitations. And until Joker, it was basically the only movie in the disastrous DC universe that could actually be considered halfway decent. A sequel was as inevitable as me needing a second liver transplant. And sure enough, a couple of months ago we got the first trailer for Wonder Woman 1984. And my immediate reaction was, nah, I'm good. This happened for a number of reasons that I'm going to eloquently elucidate in this video, but they all begin with that most fundamental of human questions. What the fuck? How exactly was Wonder Woman having these crazy adventures back in the 1980s when Batman vs Superman established that she'd basically vanished after World War I? She even says as much at the end of the movie.
100 years ago, I walked away from mankind.
So, did she forget about this? Did everyone else forget too? Or was the whole thing centered around a contrived magical bullshit device that wreaks all kinds of havoc on the world before Wonder Woman ultimately uses its power to reset everything back to exactly the way it was before, thus rendering the entire narrative completely pointless? I'll let you decide. Wait, no I won't, because my job is to be an opinionated arsehole. So get your analytical beer goggles on, because we're gonna penetrate the mystery of Wonder Woman 1984 and push deep inside with our hard-throbbing intellectual prowess. So the trailer begins with Diana Prince being interviewed by Kristen Wiig, and in a shocking change of pace, Wiig's playing a goofy, socially awkward nerd. Wow, talk about plain to type. Honestly though, she just looks happy to be in a franchise that doesn't start with Ghost and end in Busters. Anyway, so Diana talks about being in love with Steve Trevor before he got into a World War I bomber filled with poison gas and blew himself up. I wonder if that'll have any implications later in this trailer. Then it's time for the obligatory dose of 1980s nostalgia. Go neon title screen that was totally copied from Thor Ragnarok. Go Blue Mondays remix that anyone born in the last 50 years will instantly recognise. Go shopping malls that symbolise the consumerist culture of the decade. And go cheesy motivational speaker that's actually foreshadowing the events of the entire plot.
Think about finally having everything you always wanted.
Then Diana turns into Wonder Woman and foils a robbery by doing her usual stuff. Swinging, standing in dramatic fashion, crushing guns with her bare hands, breaking stuff, sliding across the floor. Then she sees a plane and gets sad because it reminds her of Steve blowing himself up. Jesus Christ, it was 70 fucking years ago. I mean, haven't you met anyone since then? Anyway, whatever. So someone hands her a really shit digital watch, and oh look, it's Steve. He's alive again. Never saw this one coming. But wait, how is he here? Even if he wasn't killed by an exploding plane filled with nerve gas, wouldn't he be at least 100 years old by now? It's almost like Diana got access to a magical bullshit device that grants wishes and used her wish to bring him back from the dead. But more on that later. So then there's your usual montage of out of context fight scenes, stuff blowing up, choppers flying to top secret installations, a smirking bad guy, Kristen Wiig looking grateful just to be working, and oh god, they've even got the invisible jet. You know, there are some aspects of the Wonder Woman mythos that are probably best left in the comic books. And I guess we need to be reminded that the Amazons are still a thing. Like, as if they're going to be any use at this point. I mean, they struggled to handle a couple of dozen old-timey soldiers armed with bolt-action rifles. Not to mention Steppenwolf, who blew through them like they weren't even there. But man, they look cool and that's what counts, right? Just like swords in Star Trek. Speaking of looking cool but making no sense, Wonder Woman can, ride lightning bolts now. How is such a thing accomplished? Don't know. You understand that lightning bolts are not tangible things that you can just grab onto, right? I mean, they exist for like a fraction of a second, so by the time you tried to hook onto one, it would have totally vanished and then you'd plummet thousands of feet to your doom. You silly sausage. Then the trailer ends with a nice joke about Steve mistaking a trash can for a piece of modern art, which ironically isn't too far from the truth these days. Fuck off, modern art! Although I would like to point out that the first public trash receptacles were invented in 1875 and were in widespread use across all industrialized nations by World War I, so Steve would totally know what a trash can is and what it's for. But hey, the movie says it's funny, so just laugh and don't think about it too much. Anyway, that's the trailer for Wonder Woman 1984, so what the hell is my problem with it? Well, my issues are threefold, and I'm gonna rank them in ascending order of shittiness. Gripe number 1, I'm tired of the 1980s. Now, let me clarify this act of heresy by saying that I love stuff which was actually made in the 80s, and most of my favourite movies of all time come from that decade. But what's pissing me off now is the endless trend of modern movies and TV shows trying to capitalise on 80s nostalgia, usually featuring characters that don't look, talk or act anything like people actually did back then. It's a cheap, watered down, sanitised version of what films used to be like, and it's been done so many times now that it's just become trite and boring and predictable. It doesn't feel like it's been done for any particular artistic or storytelling reason, it's just there because it seems cool to the middle-aged production executives overseeing movies like this. God help us when the nostalgia train eventually moves on to the 90s. Can't wait for all those jokes about the Spice Girls and dial-up internet. Oh fuck no! Gripe number 2, Steve Trevor. I don't know why they felt the need to bring this guy back to life. See, Steve's sacrifice at the end of the first movie was actually pretty well done. It brought his character arc to a satisfying conclusion, and it showed Diana that there was still something about humanity that was good and noble and worth fighting for. By the end of the movie, she'd become a sadder but wiser character as a result. And honestly, you could have just left it right there, but the writers were like, nah, it'll be fine. Just like the 1980s setting, it feels like they brought him back for no other reason than to give Diana someone to play off, and it's basically a rehash of the plot from the first movie, except instead of using his own initiative and choosing to sacrifice himself to save the lives of others, I'm willing to bet Diana has to make the decision this time around, giving up the love of her life that she's just gotten back in order to put right everything that's been done wrong. And that, dear viewer, neatly brings me along to my biggest concern about this film. Gripe number 3, the magical bullshit device. See, the fine people over at Midnight's Edge were able to share a fair amount of behind-the-scenes information about this film, and while it should probably be treated as rumour, it does kind of tie in with what we know so far, so I'm gonna run with it. The premise is that the story revolves around a magic device that's basically the monkey paw. It'll grant whatever you wish for, but it'll do it in a way that ultimately fucks you over. As a result, all the main characters in the movie use it to make their own unique dreams come true. The sleazy motivational speaker wishes for fame and fortune, Kristen Wiig wishes to be attractive and cool, and Diana wishes Steve back to life. Naturally, it all goes wrong, and they each get caught in an escalating series of disasters until Diana eventually uses her last wish to put everything back the way it was, giving up Steve and neatly maintaining the continuity of the series.
Fuck.
This is the kind of lazy, contrived writing that really pisses me off, because if you can just wave a magic wand and undo everything that happens in a movie, then what's the point in the movie even existing? If there's no consequences or lasting implications to anything that happens, then how can you hope to get invested in it? If the rumours are to be believed, test audiences didn't warm to it either. The overall impression I'm left with is a movie that's being made because the studio mandated it, and not because they had a particularly compelling story to tell. A film that takes a bunch of stuff that's popular right now and stitches it together with successful elements from the first movie, then combines it all into a plot that allows for plenty of world-changing action without the inconvenience of worrying about any lasting consequences. I hope I'm wrong about this one, because honestly, apart from Joker, Wonder Woman is pretty much the only thing DC on film has got going for it right now. She's the only female superhero that's actually likeable, until Black Widow gets on the scene anyway, and it would be a real shame if this movie went down as a misfiring sequel that failed to capitalise on the first film's success. Now I'm going to end this video on a slightly more serious note than usual, because I'm aware that we're facing a pretty challenging situation right now, and talking about movies probably seems pretty inconsequential by comparison. But personally, I like to believe that a bit of normality during difficult times can be a good thing, and I also believe in our ability to rise to the occasion and not allow fear and panic to control us. So with that in mind, I'd urge everyone watching this video to listen to your local healthcare advice. As much as it's possible for you, stay home, stay healthy, and stay safe. And the best of luck from the drinker. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now!